Welcome back. I'm so excited to be painting with you today. This dreamy, beautiful painting, Caught in the Rain with You, has really caught your eye these days. So I thought I would do a quick tutorial on that. And we're only going to be using 4 colors, up to 4 colors. So pretty fantastic. And you could get away with this with actually 3 colors if you really wanted to. But here are the colors that I will be using today. For today's tutorial, I'm going to be using 3 brushes, a large, medium, and small. And for the small brush, you want to make sure you're using a really fine tip paintbrush, because we're going to be using that to do lots of detail work. And you could also use a graphite transfer for this painting. I'm going to be doing it freehand, but if you would like to learn about graphite transfer, you can check out my tutorial on that. It's only about 2.5 minutes. And you'll learn all you'll need to know about making a graphite transfer and making your paintings just perfect. So since it is a rainy day, our background is going to be a beautiful gray sky color. So to make that color, all you have to do is use white and a small drop of black. And you don't have to mix them so that they are totally blended. You could have it so that there's a little bit of each color, so there's more of a gray here, and then pick up some of your white as well. And you can always add more to this on the canvas if you find that's a little bit too dark. So I'm gonna mix those colors. Here's my canvas, and I'm going to be doing this landscape so that the large sides are on the top and bottom. And I'm just going to use the brush and go back and forth on the canvas like so. Okay, so here we have the effect of just the paint, but I'll see what this looks like when I add a tiny bit of water to my mixture. Just a few drops of water. You don't want the paint to be dripping wet, but you definitely want it to be a little bit more silky, more watery. And adding that bit of water, you can really blend nicely. Okay, so give that a try with a large brush, dipping into that watery mixture and that gray color, and then swiping back and forth. And having that kind of contrast there, like having some of it lighter, darker, I think that really adds to it. I think that's quite beautiful. So it doesn't have to be all one color. It's kind of nice to add the bit of streakiness, I guess, because it really makes it look like it is a rainy, cloudy day. And without having to do any details, we're already creating a cloudy look on our canvas. So the lighter the better, and remember that acrylic paint dries darker than when it's wet. So if you find that it's a little bit dark on the canvas, it's going to get a bit darker once it dries. So I just want to be aware of that. And then just cover the whole canvas in that color. So once you have your canvas covered in that cloudy, light gray color, we're going to right away make the shape of our mountains. I like to have the canvas still be a little bit wet when I make the mountain shapes, so that it blends kind of nicely and pulls some of that color from the background. So I'm going to use white, and I'm going to use the same brush, that same large brush, and I'm going to put a tiny dot of red into it. And I'm using the Liquitex brand Basics, and this is primary red. To me, it has more of a pink tone than, say, like some of their other colors, like a cadmium red. I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up, but cadmium red, oh yeah, they look kind of similar, but this one is a little bit more pink in color. You could also use an actual pink color. Start out with a tiny little drop, tiny drop, and mix it in with your white until there's a very light pink color. I guess kind of a bubblegum pink color. This is what the color ends up looking like on my brush with some of that white. And so I'm going to make the mountain shapes. So just a large bump here. And another bump here. And then a few swipes beneath to kind of blend it in with that background color. And so you just kind of fill that in a little bit so that you get that nice pink colors there. Again, the hills are just very subtle. And you want the bottom of the hills to just kind of fade into the background color. Give it a few swipes just so that some of that pink is down here. Yeah, very subtle. Because you want it to be kind of lost in the rain. When we're looking at it, it'll be kind of hidden, but this gives us a nice little base here. Then we're going to add another drop of red to that mixture. If you need to put some more white down, that's okay too. And we're going to make a color that is a little bit darker than the red. And I'm going to be using that same brush, same large brush. And just very lightly and back and forth. So I'm not pressing my brush down, just very lightly with the tip of the brush, zigzagging back and forth and leaving most of the paint still on the brush. So zigzagging all the way down here, making it larger, wider as we go. Very soft, and making it wider, zigzagging all the way down. Like so. Now what we're going to do is we're going to lay out our trees. So for that we're going to use brown color. You could also use a dark gray color if you only wanted to use the three colors, red, black, and white. You could make a dark gray. I'm going to be using burnt sienna, kind of a brown color. And I'm going to be using my small brush to do this task. And I'm going to be adding water to some of that brown to make it kind of like a watercolor. I find that this looks really pretty if it's a little bit more transparent rather than like really thick and pigmented. And again, you might need to test it out so that it's not dripping wet. You don't want brown dripping down the canvas. Okay, so I'm going to start with these little guys. Just very lightly making a very light tree. And you might have to let the background dry a little bit before you do this. They're very short. I'll bring you guys in so you can see the next couple trees. And I'm going to make it larger as I go along. I'm going to make the trees kind of interesting, like kind of swooping around. A little bit of personality. Kind of imagine that you're using an ink pen, doing some really pretty calligraphy. And these are by no means the stars of the show, so you can have a little bit of fun with them, because a lot of it's going to be covered up anyway. You see how I'm kind of a little bit swoopy there. And just relaxing, enjoying the painting. Like that. So this is the pathway to where the little couple is going to be standing, and these are the trees along the way. Okay. So you want to give that a quick blow dry, or do your canvas dance, wave it around, fan it a little bit, and let that dry before we move on to the next step. So we're going to be painting our blossoms in a progressive way. We're going to make them progressively darker. Okay, so we're going to start with a very, very light pink color. So you're going to want to mix that color, and I would say a little bit darker, a little bit more pigmented than your pathway. And we're going to paint on these little trees, and the way you do this is just little dots, dot, 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 dot. Very, very light. To the side. You can do some in front of the trees, hide any imperfections that that you might see. Super simple technique, like so. Okay, and now I'm going to be adding a tiny little bit of red to that mixture, making it just a little bit darker, and then going back to these trees and just dot, 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 very, very light. And you can see the color difference here, the two different pinks, but still not really dark. It's very subtle, and making this dotted foliage a lot bigger than this one. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side, and then we're going to do the exact same thing, just making it bigger and darker on these bottom ones. So once you have completed those blossoms, we're going to add some blossoms on the ground. And we're going to just do the same technique, little dots underneath this tree. So it kind of hides the roots, so it kind of takes away the pressure from having to really finish the bottom of that tree. And here again, we don't want to go too crazy. And I'm going to use a little bit of a lighter color and add a little bit of leaves or blossoms on the ground here, and going onto the path a little bit. It's very, very light. And you could do the ground cover as you go as well, if that's easier for you. I'm just adding a little bit of that light pink that was left on my brush, just putting it on the bottom of this one. Just add a little something something. Just underneath, not covering up at all of it. And I'm going to use some of that light pink color. I'm going to make a little moon up in the corner. Just painting a circle and filling it in. You can make this as large or as small as you want. You could add details like the craters. You could have the moon coming up over the hills. Personally, I like just keeping it simple. Having that circle up in the corner. So now that your background is dry, we are going to make a little bit more of a pathway for our couple. So I'm going to be using more of that pink color, but we're going to make it nice and dark. Well, dark. We're going to make it darker, like somewhere between this color and maybe one tone darker than that. So we don't want it to be red. We still want it to be a very nice, vibrant pink. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to my brush, and that's the color I'm going to be using. A little shade darker than this this pink that we have going on the bottom. Adding a couple drops of water, making it nice and smooth when we use it. So I'm imagining that they're going to stand around here. So I'm just going to add back and forth, kind of like what we did with this path originally. Just going back and forth, adding, like skipping a little bit, not just going zigzag all the way down, but adding a line here, line there, like so. Oh my gosh, it's starting to get dry, but that's okay. It's a little bit of something to the path. Okay. And you can go all the way to the bottom if you want to. It depends on how your painting looks. If you think it would look better going all the way down. Okay, adding to it like that. And we're going to be adding white highlighting to it at the end. so it won't be so obviously that pink color. I just added a little bit of water to my brush just to kind of extend some of these lines a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to paint our little couple. And as I said before, you could use graphite transfer to do this. I have a fantastic little video. Basically, you print off the silhouette on your computer and you can use a pencil to graphite transfer it, the silhouette onto your painting, and then you can paint it in with black. I'm going to attempt to freehand it for you. And as you saw earlier, I'm using black. This one is called Mars Black, but any black will do just fine. And we're going to paint very, very small. We're going to make the couple just teeny tiny. Okay, and yes, I have paint all over my hand already. So I'm going to start with the woman. And we're going to make like a nice little hourglass shape. So I'm going to start with a kind of a triangle on top, and then triangle on the bottom, like so. Little head, little circle on top. Okay, and we're going to have her leg come down. I'm going to make sort of a little triangle shape there as well, but we're not going to fill that part in. We're just going to fill in the coat. Like so. Get your head a little bit higher. Okay, and then we're gonna paint in the man standing next to her. And instead of an hourglass shape, we're gonna start the shoulders a little bit taller next to her. And then just kind of a long, imagine you're painting a long suit jacket. And the head. And then we're going to paint the legs in kind of the same idea, same shape. We're going to have it come down to the middle. And then one beside. Like so. The one nice thing about this is if we find the shape isn't quite working, we can always put, for the head or whatever, you can always put the umbrella over top of it if you want to. So I'm going to have the umbrella come across, go a little bit above her, and then make a little dome. Okay, and if it's not quite where you want it, like I kind of want it a little bit more over both of them. And you can add little things like sometimes the bristles end up doing their own thing and create something really pretty too. Like, you know, this one I painted a little bit more out and it kind of looks like his hands are in his pockets. So it's kind of a neat little thing that happened on its own. And I'm just going to add a little bit of shadow by adding little streaks underneath of it. And the umbrella shadow as well. Okay, and then you sit back, you have your little couple. Pretty cute. Okay, and once this dries, then I'm going to add a few little streaks of white onto the path. again using my small brush, but I rinsed it off. And I'm going to start under their feet. Here. Just adding a few streaks of white. Mostly to the tops of where we have that pink. So right on the top of it, adding like a little bit of that highlight. A little bit of white. And when I slide the brush, sometimes it makes these little tiny dots of white. And when you kind of step back a little bit, I think it's really quite beautiful. I think it makes it look like little sunspots where it's like kind of glistening. I think that's really pretty. Okay, and on to our last little step. Like I said before, I'm going to be bringing back that large brush, this guy, and I'm going to be mixing white with a lot of water. So you want it quite watery. I added a lot of water to this brush, so it could drip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe it on the side of my container a little bit so that it's wet but not dripping wet. Okay, and you want to start somewhere maybe over here and just lightly drag your brush bristles like that. Except I didn't get mine going all the same way, so. But pick a direction. I find going across works really well. And you don't have to cover the entire page. I would suggest even just doing a few streaks. Maybe more in the middle. You can vary it a little bit. But just very, very, very light. And then you'll start to have like that rain look going in front, which I think is quite beautiful. I love this little couple, and I love the dreamy kind of setting that goes with this painting. I think it's subtle and just really pretty, just something really pretty. So I hope that you gave it a good try and enjoy your little couple and your little walk in the rain with me for this afternoon. So you guys have a fantastic evening, and of course check out my other tutorials if you have not already, and like and subscribe, and come find me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're interested in doing this as a paint party, of course you can contact me through Facebook and Instagram at daralynnpainting, all one word. Have a great day, guys. Bye.